This episode is fueled by Frontier Coffee. Family owned, family operated. Fresh roasted coffee inspired by America's Wild West legends. Find Frontier on Facebook, Instagram, and online at frontiercoffee.com. Wake up and be legendary. And now, to the Kensington Corner.
Good morning. Welcome to Kensington Corner. Tom here. Today, I have the honor of interviewing the Operational Athlete, Charlie One, founder of Ruck for Vets and lead advisor for Hard to Kill Fitness. How you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm good, brother. Appreciate you having me on. I've been listening to your guys' stuff, and I love the mission you guys got, so I'm excited to be on here.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. We're slowly growing, getting there. You know, we hit a year next month, man, and it's been wild. It's been a weird journey.
Awesome.
So when we first, it's funny because we do these things where it's like, hey man, like it tells people you want to, we should invite on and stuff, and your name got thrown out there. And when we first started talking, I was like, man, there's no way I'm gonna get this guy on. And then, we start getting other guests on, start getting you on. It's cool to see you guys because like, it's weird from our point of view. We have guys who are getting ready to go through SFAS and buds that listen to us, and having guys like you on, man, it's a big motivator for them because it almost normalizes it, if that makes sense. They see guys like you and like you're into fitness and you're doing all these great things, and they're like, man, and then they get to see the persona that you have, and they're like, man, this guy's he's a normal dude, man, and just getting on with life.
Yeah, man, I love to mentor those guys that are going to buds, guys that are going to selection, starting the queue, in the queue. Like anyway, I always tell them anytime somebody reaches out to me, I'm like, I'm always here. I'll answer every single message sent to me. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but I want to see these guys succeed. I want to see the regiment succeed.
Yeah.
Move forward.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, because the numbers. Obviously they're wanting more people to come through right now, and they're pushing a lot more people through right now. But I remember when I was coming up, there's a ton of guys who were like really motivated because they were coming out of high school because of the wars were still going on and stuff. And now you're starting to see kind of a different, wars are still happening, but you're kind of seeing a different selection process as far as guys coming out of high school. And they're like, man, I really want this. Like I've talked to guys who were like, man, at 6 years old, I knew I wanted to go be a Green Beret. And I was like, man, yeah, and I wish, for me, I'm like, man, that's crazy. Because I was like, that's wild. I never had that early on, but you're starting to see guys now. They're like, yeah, man, like sophomore in high school. Like I've talked to 15, 16-year-olds. They're like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah,
Sam. Yeah, I've talked to some kids in high school, and, I try to always get them in the right mindset. Like this is what you want. That's your 1,000-meter target. Let's get through basic training first.
Yep.
Let's get through airborne. Let's get through this. So it's cool to see their journey. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I've seen guys go from basic training into the Q course and graduate and be successful. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely a journey, man. I think that a lot of guys, they get so, I don't know, wrapped up in it that it almost seems like an obstacle they can't overcome. I have a guy right now that was supposed to ship April 6th, and he's obviously they pushed everything back. And I think they're telling him he's going to ship here in like July. And he's just one of those dudes that's like, he's just ready. He's just, what I'm saying? He's just ready. He just wants to get it going. And I'm like, yeah, man, it'll come. You got to have patience, but it'll come.
Yeah, exactly. I remember, just sitting in between, selection and SUT and all that, like the nerves. I just wanted to go. Let's get this over with. I want this Green Beret. I can't even imagine waiting to go right now.
Yeah. That's what he was saying, man. He's like, it's crazy because he's just kind of in a, not a funk, but he's like, man, when you put your whole life on hold, like, hey, this is what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go do this, and he's just, just waiting now. And it's like, man, he'll be mentally tough about it. But I think that's the big thing too, is that it's hard. I already know it's hard, like waiting on it, but then having to go through basic, and then, like basic's already kind of like that. It's doesn't really prepare you that much for selection, but it gets you in the mindset like, hey, this shit's real. Hey, this is what I'm about to do. And then you kind of push through. And so having, building yourself up thinking like, oh man, I'm about to go do this, and then get it put on hold. It's like,
yeah, no, for sure. I wasn't ready for basic. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was a surfer from California. This is like a spur of the moment decision for me.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with these kids that know what they want to do. Like me, it was like a last resort almost. Like I had to get away from where I was and go into something new. So.
Yeah, I know. When I talk to kids, that's what I'm saying. When I talk to kids, they're like 15, 14, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is what I'm like, when did you decide that? Like, where?" Because I was totally different, dude. I was like, no. I even remember like the recruiter just like looking at me dead in the face and being like, "When's the last time you smoked pot, man?" And I was like, what's up, man? What are we doing here? Where are we going with this? I was like, yeah, I had no idea. I was like, my height, I was like 6'3", 6'4", like 155 pounds when I went to basic, man. I was a string bean. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Oh yeah, same here. I think I was like 125.
Yeah.
I was a little guy. I literally had a growth spurt like the summer after basic. I was a little guy. I wrestled like 103s in high school. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a dude right now, man. It's funny because you kind of look like him, but one of our athletes that we sponsor, he wrestled 103 in high school, but he's actually on this Bellator MMA card up in San Jose that got postponed. And former Mortarman, man, he's a cool ass dude, but they're keeping him on the card, and it's in his hometown. He's up in San Jose, so he's excited for that.
Yeah, let me know when that is. I'd love to watch it. Check him out.
Yeah, no, I will. I'll put it up, man. Mike's a good dude. He's just he's a single father, just grinded, man. Dude just grinds all day, and
yeah, my respect.
Yeah. So when you started, when you got out, man, how did the Operational Athlete form? How'd the idea form? Because the name, I mean, it's one of those names. It's like kind of simple, but it's super catchy as well. You know, when you see like all the Operational Athletes, like, oh man, that makes sense. Like, you know, like it's just one of those things that rolls off the tongue.
I mean, for me, it's all about being ready at all times. You know, there's no lulls when, you know, you're deploying a lot, you're going to JSAT, you're going to training. And with my new career being a police officer, you know, like every week I have to be ready. I have to be operationally ready at all times, because you never know when you're going to get in a fight, you get a foot chase, you know, a gunfight, whatever it is. Like staying operational it's a full-time gig. So I wanted to show people how I train, you know, how my training has helped me survive, you know, train guys to be successful, and how it still keeps me alive to this day. You know, I being a police officer now, it was an unexpected job that I truly love. I get in foot chases, you know, chase guys like a half mile, jumping walls, this and that, and then I got to fight them. And these guys are, you know, big parolees. Like all they do is out in jail. You know, like I got to be ready, you know, and it's all about discipline and, you know, doing jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai,
right,
training functionally, you know, not aesthetically. Like that's being operational, man. And Jeffy tried to preach that to guys so they can stay alive on the streets.
Yeah, dude, it's funny that you mentioned jiu-jitsu because I'm a brown belt. And so I'm always pushing it to all these new guys. And for me, this is just how I think about stuff. Like when I'm going through stuff, I try to relate anything that I have going on in life to, you know, any kind of pressure situation I'm going into, things that I relate back to, right? Like, so things that I do. And I was talking to these guys earlier, and I was like, man, you know, if you've never been in like an army uniform with like gear on you and like just sweaty and just, I was like, go roll in jiu-jitsu, man. Go do some classes and have like a dude who's twice your size just lay on top of you for a little bit, man. And I was like, in that pressure and that whole like claustrophobic feeling and stuff, it'll start easing, man. So when you get in here and you have to, you know, go under a fucking muddy pipe and low crawl for 50 meters, it won't even bother you. You'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm good. You know, it's a different feeling, but you're so used to being under that pressure and wet and just sweaty and grimy, face pushed into the mat, it won't even bother you. And they're like,
it's a shocker when you get that 150-pound guy knee to belly. Whew.
Dude, yeah, dude. We got a dude here. He's a former recon Marine guy that runs Thatcher's Training Center here, and he's just like this little squirrely little dude, man. And he's just like, he's one of those guys that you would not. I didn't think he was going to be as powerful as he is, you know. And I was like, Jesus, you know. So you got dudes like that, but I'm telling you, man, judo, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that do train, but I think a lot of people look at it like, when I tell people, you know, like they're like, oh, okay, you're on a podcast and you do jiu-jitsu, like, well, you Joe Rogan, and I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, know, I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for a while, man. Like I'm telling you, but it's Yeah, I mean, for me, conditioning wise, I would rather roll jujitsu than do anything any day of the week. It's just, I mean, I don't mind running. I love rucking. I'm a big ruck guy, but jujitsu, man, I can do it.
Same.
I could do it all day. Yeah, I've seen. That's what I was going to transition in with the ruck for vets, man, because I saw that, and I'm like the I guess the go-to ruck dude for my little group of dudes who I talk to, and I'm just like, yeah, man, I don't know. There's something about rucking that really relates to me. I don't know if it's because I'm tall or I just like it. There's something about putting something heavy on your back and just going.
Yeah, every time I throw a ruck on, it brings me back. It brings me back to so many different feelings and days. And yeah, I mean, it brings me back to selection. I start getting selection memories, SUT, Robin Sage, then deployments, over mountains and stuff. And I just love throwing a ruck on. It brings me back to that brotherhood. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, is trying to bring that brotherhood back. And then, just deliver our message to everybody. When we walk down the Strand is normally where we do it, we get people, chanting, yeah, thank you for your service, USA, USA. I love bringing that patriotism, alive in the community, and showing them that there is veterans in this community, and getting that message out to the world now too.
Yeah, man. What's funny is that for a long time, and I've said this on the podcast before, there was like this stigma that people didn't really like support veterans, right? Or like, there wasn't there, that you never really saw it, and like there was this downfall to it. But dude, when you get out in the community and you start talking to people, you quickly see how many people like, there's that 1% of veteran community, but the actual people that support you, it's huge, man. It is huge. We sit and talk to people all day when we ruck, man. We'll pass people, talk to them like, oh, what are you guys doing? And we tell them what we're doing, and they're like, dude, that's so fucking cool. I'm like, yeah, we're trying.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I love doing a rucksack on and just getting out there and talking to people. And, I've done these events 3 years now. And this is the first year I've finally decided to kind of make it a full nonprofit. I was in the process before all this happened. So I'm going to keep going with it, diving into it, and just try to start setting up more events with Ruck for Vets, Run for Vets, all sorts of stuff. And
nice.
Just try to bring some mental health awareness and suicide prevention, stuff like that, back to the community. And we usually pick a different organization each time. So it's been cool to do that and
awesome.
Work with all these different.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was talking to the episode that's releasing this Friday, actually, is an episode with Mike Glover, and he was talking about he's starting his own. I got it written down. It's called reachlive.com, and it's going to be like it's not even soft community, but it's like a veteran community, I guess. YouTube. Like his guys are starting it, and what they're going to do is that, like, let's say like you and I do a podcast, right? Then we throw it on his website, and however many stream views or like clicks it gets and how much money it makes, 50% goes to a foundation of my choice and 50% goes to a foundation of your choice.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, when he was telling me about it, I was like, that's legit. And he was like, yeah, because they work with the Mighty Oaks Foundation. He's a board member there now, and he was like, yeah, so I plan on doing these big ones with guys that generate a lot of revenue, and then being able to give 50% back to a foundation of my choice. It's huge.
I love that, man. I love that. All these guys are doing all these wonderful things, and it's only going to make the community a better place, the world a better place. So I'm stoked to see that and check that out too.
Yeah, I am too, man. Yeah, it's constantly growing. People are constantly trying to do stuff. One of our sponsors, out of Regz, Pomade, they've been around for about a year now. They're starting to get they got some pretty good growth going on, and they're doing the Green Beret Foundation Pomade this year. So that's in the works, coming out this summer, and almost 100% of those proceeds are going back to the Green Beret Foundation. And you got you got companies like that that are stepping up, and they're like, yeah, we all connected. We sat down with the executive director down there, and he was just like, look, man, we could do this for you guys. You guys just pay for the label, we'll do everything else. And he was like, we'll give all the proceeds back to you. It's not a big deal. It's just huge.
Yeah, definitely. That's great.
So moving into that, where did Hard to Kill Fitness come into? How did that even hop out?
So they reached out to me a couple of years back, and they were creating a program for guys going to selection. They wanted something, along the lines of selection prep, getting guys ready for the Q course. So I worked with them on that. We had selection squad, and then from there, it's kind of just grown into a family. I Rory closely, the CEO. He's a big sponsor of Ruck for Vets. I mean, he sponsors everything that we want to do. And then Aaron's another advisor with them. But it's been great. You know, we get to work with the programming, get to work with the community. It's kind of given me another sense of purpose, you know, being out. You know, we're training guys for police academy, fire academy, basic training, guys that want to go to special tactics teams, stuff like that, selection, and guys that want that sense of community again. Yeah. Like on our Facebook page, it's like all day long, guys are talking to each other. They got that purpose again. Yeah. And it gives me purpose too, which is great. I love to talk to these guys that are going in or getting out, whatever. You know, we got guys overseas doing it. And when it comes down to it, you know, it's just, you know, mentally and physically strong, because without mental strength, you can't be physically strong. So right. I love giving that sense of purpose to these guys and working for this organization, because there's no fluff. Like, we're not for everybody. We won't preach to be for everybody. Like, we are designed for a specific group of people that are willing to put in the work and be a part of a brotherhood. So that's what I like about it.
Yeah, it's awesome. You guys are super active on social media too, which is, you know, for this generation, man, where you're seeing it makes sense, because you guys are like, I don't know, like you look at Hard to Kill Fitness, you look at your page and you see that you're actually putting out good content and you're putting out things that people want to see. And it's informational, man. I completely agree with you with the community thing, because when people ask me like, oh, what did you start the podcast for? And I'm like, well, man, I got out, you know, 4 deployments later, I'm depressed as fuck. Like I'm anxiety ridden. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm working out by myself. I'm a 30-year-old in college, like, you know what I'm saying? So I started doing the podcast, and it was the same for me, man. People think that like I'll get messages like, oh man, like this is great. Like, I love what you guys are doing. And I do appreciate those messages, but this podcast helps me out more than probably people even realize, man. Being able to have this talk and be able to sit down with people and learn things myself, while also getting to kind of, I don't know, decompress myself. That the community means a lot to me too, because it gives back, being able to talk to people.
Yeah. And so, I was saying, I get people who reach out to me all the time, DMs and stuff. And I've had guys even say things like, hey man, I'm feeling suicidal, this, that. I've literally sent those guys my phone number and said, call me right now. You know, people we don't know. And I think social media is great for that, because sometimes these people don't have anybody else to reach out to. They don't have family or people they trust. You know, then I hooked them up with some numbers and some organizations after that. And, you know, and it's happened a few times, and I'm happy to be that guy. Right. You know, it's hard sometimes. But it's trying to just keep people like healthy out there.
Dude, yeah, we did the same thing. When I would have people that would message me, man. And for a long, you know, when it first started happening, I was like, man, you know, it was kind of crazy. We're getting stuff. And then we started getting stuff like, oh, like I had, I've told this story before. We had a dude who reached out and was like, hey man, is there any way you could, I'm going through this divorce. You know, I don't know what to do. Can you help me with this? You know, I'm a former Green Beret. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing right now, man. And I was like, yeah dude, you know, and we're the same way. Is that like, I tell people all the time, especially if you're listening to this, I don't know all the answers. I don't have all the money in the world, all that, but I can find people who do. Like I can push whatever problem you think you're going through right now, man, we can help you with it in some way. I have enough foundations out there, enough people out there. And yeah, man, I have people now that like have messaged me, 2, 3 a.m., you know, drunk, suicidal, and we're good friends now. Never even met the guy, you know, never even met these people, but they know they can reach out to me, and I'm always going to talk to them, like always.
Yeah. Yeah, always. Sometimes people just need an ear. They just need someone to talk to, someone non-biased, someone that's going to listen. Yep. And like you said, sometimes we don't even have to give them advice. They just want to just vent. Yeah, I need to vent all the time, you know, so I understand.
Time. Yeah, the biggest thing, I think the biggest challenge getting out, man, transition-wise, is that when you transition, you go back to a place that you're not used to. You're used to waking up every day and being with a certain group of people, no matter what. Even if it's not the same people all the time, you're used to being in that zone, in that mindset all the time. And, you know, when you wake up, I told people this before, it was weird, man. When I first got out, I would wake up paranoid, like I did something wrong. When I first got out, like for the first few weeks, me and another guy were living together and we were going to school, man. I told him, I was like, dude, I'm in the shower like 5 a.m. getting sick to the stomach because I think I've done something wrong. And there's nothing wrong in my life at all. And I'm just like I don't even know what's going on, man. And he was like, oh, dude, I've been feeling the same way. And that's when, you know, the ideas for the podcast really started cranking out. I started talking to other people, and I was like, man, this is kind of like a common problem. Like, this is like people are like really out in these areas not knowing what's going, like they're getting out of the military and they don't have anything else that they're used to doing, man.
Yeah. And I think there's also a stigma, you know, and with men, with police officers, military, and, you know, even special forces, like there's a stigma that we can't talk about things that we're going through. There's a stigma that, you know, there's nothing wrong with us. And I think it's just, it's hard. I mean, it's been a long time for me coming, and, you know, I see a therapist, and I have a life coach.
Yep.
And that stuff makes me a better father, makes me a better son, brother, everything, a better friend. 'Cause I have a chance to work through my issues now rather than just keep them all in and, you know, hit the bottle or whatever, you know?
No, I do the same thing. I tell people all the time, people see like my social media posts, and you got to realize it's the same way the algorithm's set up in Instagram, right? That's like, you know, 10% of your followers get to see it, right? That's probably 10% of my life, if that. And I think it's hard to take yourself out of the mindset sometimes when you're scrolling through these things, because, you know, the way your brain imbalances to these things, and you get addicted to liking and get it. You know, the other thing that you forget is that these people still have struggles, man. I still struggle every day, like every day. I'm all, you know, whether it be depression, whether it be anxiety, whether it be, you know, just sense of purpose, you know, I mean, there's stuff every day that I challenge myself with. And for some reason there's, you're right, especially with men, especially with, you know, athletic guys who, you know, for some reason there's this stigma that there's not supposed to be things wrong in my life. And it's like, man, that's not how it works at all. Like, I wish there was a way I could do an episode with my therapist one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, and it has been big for me. And doing things like this has been big for me too, because I'm able to put, you know, task to purpose like that and put my information out here. And I think when you're transparent like that, man, people start to relate more to you, and they're like, damn, you know, this guy's actually like, he's kind of sucking too. And it makes it easier for them to listen and to you, and like have a cordial conversation with you, because they understand that you're going through some shit too.
Yeah. And they see us openly talking about it. Like, okay,
exactly.
I guess I can too. So
yeah. No, it takes guys like us, man, to do shit like that. Like, really. I mean, the more guys like you and I open up about things like that, the more that it's going to be easier, and that stigma is going to go away.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree, and try to preach it as much as possible. And I'm happy we're able to, you know, talk about it. So
yeah, definitely. You know, we did that, man. My first episode I dropped on this podcast ever was called Depression, Anxiety, and Suicide Awareness, I think. And man, yeah, I can't tell you the amount of guys that I wish I could reach out to now who are passed away. And I don't know, man. Like, I've been there before, you know, I've been down before like that. And I'm just, for me, it was always like, I knew I wasn't finished yet. I knew I still had a journey to go, and that kept me going. But I look back, I'm like, man, some of these guys, I wish I could have just had a conversation with them, or I wish, you know, there was just, and when the podcast first happened, I would get messages like, hey man, there's the one that always sticks out to me. It was like, hey man, it was like 2 a.m. And he was like, yeah, I was thinking about killing myself tonight. And for some reason, like I saw like one of your social media posts about like a podcast, and I just checked it out. And he was like, please, like, keep doing what you're doing, man. Because like, I'm in, you know, it brought me back to where like I needed to be centered. And I was like, holy shit. You know, I mean, for me, that was like the ultimate compliment. Cause if one person listened to what we were doing, I'd be like, oh, like that's a thumbs up, man. I got one person to listen. When you start getting multiple messages like that, you're like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if this conversation we're having right now helps one person, that's one person we help.
Exactly.
You know, and maybe they'll help one other, and, you know, force multiplying. So
I don't know, man. I think that a lot of guys our age, though, that stigma has been just preached to them since they were kids, and I see it the complete opposite way, though. I feel like you're a stronger human being, well-rounded. It's one thing to go into the gym and absolutely kill it and be, you know, a beast there, but how are you taking care of yourself mentally? How are you taking care of yourself on, you know, daily knowledge wise? Are you, because I mean, you can go to the gym, you can kill it, man, but if you're miserable 85% of the rest of the day, what's the point, you know?
Yeah, I get a lot of guys that ask me, like, how do you strengthen your mental toughness, like to go to selection and the Q course and to get through these things. And just what you said, like, read, push yourself past the limit. I like to preach one more rep, because if you have that, one more mile, one more rep attitude, when you get to those moments, you're 24 miles in, on a ruck march, and you still got a couple more to go, you're going to dig deep and you're going to find that, that intestinal fortitude to keep going and pushing yourself. It's not something you can, you can't, I guess, it's not something I guess you're born with it, but you learn it on the fly. But if you could train your mind and your body, like, you'll be good getting through like selection stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
I tell guys all the time, man, if you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, dude, your whole life will change, man. If you get comfortable being uncomfortable, and I always preach that. It's just one thing I always tell guys, because it's hard, man. In the society we live in now, is that there are different obstacles than there were 100 years ago. It's a different type of game now. And a lot of people, physically and mentally, will never really challenge themselves. You don't see there's still backbreaking work out there, but for the majority of people now, with the way society has changed, it's not good or bad. It's it's whatever. You're not seeing these backbreaking days anymore that people are used to, and I think people get lethargic, and they get used to just sitting and used to just kind of going through the day, and then it makes it harder, because when you are physically challenged like that, you're like, what am I doing, man? Like, where, how do I overcome this? And you just shut down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, how I continue to practice it is at this garage gym, right now I'm transitioning, but I mean, my whole closet's full of gym equipment. And I train by myself most of the time. So, it's easy to get on my phone. It's easy to cut it a little short. No one's going to see me not do that rep.
Right.
And that's why I like programming. I like using like our programs, Hard to Heal Fitness, because if you stick to it, it's going to push you, and I need that like routine. I posted about routine a couple of days ago. That stuff it's so important in creating that mental toughness too.
Yeah. No, I know this whole quarantine's kind of thrown me off my whole routine, and dude, I can tell. I mean, day one, as soon as I'm not doing what I'm usually doing, and the thing is too, is it's one of those habitual things where you start slipping. Like, first it'll just be like, oh, I'm a little bit off my routine, or the next thing you know, there's dirty dishes in the sink, or hey, I haven't done laundry, and it's a moment, like, just gradual, but it's a momentum killer, man, because then you start building up all this extra pressure on yourself, and you're like, what am I doing, man? Now I'm so far off my routine. How do I get back to it? So I preach routine all the time, man.
Yeah, definitely trying times right now. It's really going to put some people, through, like, going to test them mentally and physically right now. Like, do you have what it takes to keep pushing yourself during this?
Yeah, I was kind of mind blown by how many people actually started reaching out social media wise and doing these fitness challenges and stuff. It was kind of cool. I was not expecting that to come out of this, and it's awesome, man. I'm seeing a lot more people. It's weird because you can respond one or two ways. You could just do less, I guess. If you got to sit home all day, you could just do less. But I'm starting to see people that I know personally do more. Like, man, I don't have a job. Well, I'm about to go get this, 8-10 miler ruck in. And I'm like, yeah, you ruck? I didn't even know you rucked. They're like, I don't. I'm just going to go do it now. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. A couple of my buddies, they only see each other. But they got mats, and they just been doing jujitsu in the backyard on the mats, training still, not letting this stop them, doing whatever they can. If they're by themselves, they're doing drills. That's awesome. And yeah, I think there's some good things that'll come out of this. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think people's mindsets will change. One of the things that I've been talking to with people about is that I think people are starting to really understand the relationships more too from this. It's one thing to both parties to have a 10-hour job and use that routine when they come home, but being stuck inside all day, especially if you have kids, and you got to learn to enjoy that time, man. Like, even if it's going to be frustrating, because you're going to get frustrated, you're inside, man, you're going to get frustrated, but you got to take the good with it, because those are times that you're never going to get back. You're never going to get that back, man. Like, I mean, as soon as this Corona stuff and COVID stuff is over, everyone's going to hit the ground running again. and you're just going to be busy all over again. And I think people 6-7 months from now, I think you'll look back and say, yeah, like that was, I'm glad it sucks what happened, but I'm glad that I got to spend that time.
Yeah, I've truly been enjoying the extra time I've had with my son, my sister, stuff like that. And I was going to say, it's also been a blessing in disguise, getting rid of some of the toxic in our lives, like you kind of realize who your true friends, family, and colleagues are, when you're stuck at home, and you have no one to talk to, who's reaching out still, who's out there, who do you want to reach out to?
Right.
Who do you really not care to reach out to? It's kind of showing yourself that, unfortunately I got injured 2 weeks before this all happened. So I was kind of quarantined already. But like all the people that have reached out to me, about my recovery, people I don't even know, like it's been so appreciative, and I'm definitely happy to have those people in my life still.
Yeah. No, it does, man. And the thing is too, is that it's a different environment, right? I mean, the thing is, it's easy. The one reason that drinking became so big and that societal standard became so big is because drinking and alcohol and drugs, they allow you to be a different person than who you are. They allow that. And it gives an excuse. And then, I drink. I mean, we were talking about craft beer before we hopped on, but, for good or worse, it can make you a negative person, make you a positive person, but some people use it as a social crutch. So if you have a friend group that only drinks and you guys are only knowing each other in that personal space and then trying to relate to it outside of it, man, a lot of people are struggling right now because they're like, man, we don't really have anything to talk about. we don't even know each other like that. Like what, and so it's weird, man.
Absolutely. And, I went down that road after I got out. After my last deployment, actually, I went down that road and I was drinking so toxically and just drowning myself in these social settings where I thought these people were my friends. But, yeah, they really weren't. They were struggling, too, from their own things. And we were both drowning it out. And just, man, like there's someone out there that's struggling with the drinking that is listening to this. Like, talk to your family, get some help, because it's not good, in the overall, just for you in general. So
yeah, you definitely
I got a hold of it.
Yeah, you definitely have to use it as like a I don't know, man. It's hard for me because I talk about just using it in moderation, right? And I love going and love getting an IPA, hanging out and doing it. My problem is when I start slipping too much, where I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably stop and get a sixer today. And then I look at myself and I'm like, well, that's like the 4th day in a row you've killed a sixer, bro. Like, what are you doing, man? And so I really had to like have a self-realization for myself because my dad has a problem with alcohol, and so it was very easy for me to slip into that as well. And my thing is that I'm one of those people. I get drunk off of 2 IPAs, but I don't ever black out. So I could drink 20 IPAs and then just go to sleep, like it's nothing. And then it just fosters a real negative environment, man, because it puts a strain on everything you're doing. And then it goes right back to routine. Then I may kill 8 IPAs, but the next day, dude, I'm a sloth, man. I don't even want to do anything. I don't want to do shit. And so I really had to get myself out of that. Same thing with like cooking for myself. That's what I always tell people. That's my biggest thing, man. That's like, for me, that's my mental happiness is cooking. And so if I find myself like going out and getting fast food or something, man, I already know I'm slipping. So I have these little things that I catch basically.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been cooking a lot lately, and it's been pretty fun.
Yeah.
One of my things is gardening. Actually, I love getting in the garden. Growing my own produce, just tending for the plants. When I started coming back from deployments, I found a lot of like happiness in that. It was crazy. So the next house I buy, I'm gonna build a whole greenhouse in the backyard and everything. That's my happy place right there. So that and the gym.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome, dude. That we have I have a buddy now who's he's a few years away from retirement, and he's out of Bragg right now on 3rd group, and he just bought a ton of land a little north of Fayetteville, and he's opening like he just put up the other day like, hey, I'm looking for names for this. And he's like, oh, Happy Ranch or like something like that. But he basically, he's going to farm. And he was like, yeah, dude, I just want to get out. He's like, I don't want to, like, a lot of Green Berets, a lot of SEALs, a lot of guys get out and they stay in that tactical environment because it's what they know, And he was like, dude, I just want to get out and farm. I don't want to do anything else with this. I've been doing it for over a decade now. I just want to farm, man. And I'm like, for me, I'm just like, I'm like, good for you, dude. And, and I'm originally from a couple hours up. And so my dad, he was like, yeah, let Zach know when, whenever he needs stuff, I can bring equipment down to him and, I'll help him out and stuff. And it's just a different setting, man. But I think people want different things. And that's the thing. For anybody, man, whether you're a veteran or whether you're not, just find what makes you happy. What you're doing. If you're miserable doing what you're doing, and I'm not going to go all Gary V and be like, sell your house and quit your job and divorce your wife. I'm not going to say all that, but dude, if you have something that like you're happy about, dude, go do it, man. Like figure it out, like hobby wise, figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Just do it.
Yeah.
This is not endorsed by Nike, but just do it.
Yeah, definitely. So so how did you even get into gardening though? That actually is interesting to me right now because I don't even know, like, just planting flowers, planting vegetables, like what happened?
So my mother growing up was always into gardening. She's got a green thumb, and I used to always love just like getting out there with her and just seeing something start from a seed or a small plant, and then the fruit or the veggies that came with it, and pruning it and just all the fine details I go into, creating something. And it's always calmed me. It's always something I love doing with her. And like my mom has a really awesome tropical garden at her house now. I mean, you feel like you're in Hawaii when you're in the backyard. It's amazing. So I'm going to move more towards like the, fruits and veggie side because I really like that stuff. I want to plant like 5 different apple trees in my backyard. Like I'm excited about it. And like, I think it's a great thing, for my son to learn too, to learn where these things come from, to learn how to take care of them. And hopefully he'll feel the same about it, moving forward.
No, man, I think that's huge. I think, generational learning like that is big because we kind of got away from it, with ours, and luckily for me, I grew up born in 88. So I still had kind of that old school right before cell phones came out childhood, and I'm very thankful because I grew up learning to cook, and I didn't realize until I became like an actual adult how many people like didn't know how to cook. And I was like, wait a minute. And they're like, yeah, like I don't know how to fucking cook. And I'm like, how do you not know how to cook? It just blew my mind, It just like, and it was just things I never thought about. But it's the same with like gardening, man. You can't like, that's why people kill like indoor plants they get because they don't even know what they're doing, man. They have no idea, dude. And so I think that little things like that, when you bring back skills like that, I think for household good, it would be different. My dad paints and builds houses, so I knew how to like paint my room, and then I went out when I was moving into this place. I went and got some furniture, some dresser and 2 nightstands, and they like needed some work done on the top. So like sanded them down and refinished them and stuff. And for me, it's just little things like that where I'm like, man, this is kind of, it feels good, man. And I think that's one thing that we've gotten away from is putting craft in, man. When you actually do things like that, it makes you feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. I've built a couple of my own tables. And, as my son grows up, I'm going to try to teach him everything that I know, try to lay off the video games a lot more, than some of these kids and try to get them, like I said, into the garden, into sports, building stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a video game system, but the other day I was in my family group chat and I was like, man, dude, I'm at home kind of doing stuff. I'm staying busy to stay busy. You know what I'm saying? Like and my family ended up sending me like a 2009 Xbox 360. And dude, I understand now why I don't have video games. I bet I played Grand Theft Auto 20 hours out of this last week. And I'm like, nah, I can't do this anymore, dude. This is like, it's crazy, man. And I understand now why people get addicted to them and why I sold mine. I was like, oh yeah, I haven't had a video game system in years, man. It's just,
yeah. With all this, though, I'm 2 seconds away from buying a PlayStation.
Oh, dude, I know.
I almost did yesterday. I was like, oh man.
I know. That's what I said. I got out there. I was looking. I messaged like in the group, and my siblings have children, you know, and I was like, hey man, has anybody got like an old PlayStation 2 or an Xbox 360? And they're like, oh yeah, 100%. They sent me like 30 games, man. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is not a good environment. But I was like, yes. I was like, yes, I've been knocking out Grand Theft Auto. I'm like, yeah, this is dope. No, and everything's in moderation, man. You know, it's not bad. I see it. I just crack up because like my whole friend group, they play, I've never really been a Call of Duty guy, but they're playing that new Call of Duty, you know, and they were like, oh dude, we got to get in and get like whatever the group thing is. And I was like, guys, I don't have whatever system y'all have. I can't hop on that, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was talking to my buddies about it, getting in there, like their team. I've never played like, so like I would be horrible. They wouldn't want me on their team. Awful. Real life, maybe.
Yeah, Real life, I might go with you. Yeah, I've never played. You know, and they were cracking me. They were like, "Do you've never played Call of Duty?" And I was like, honestly, man, like I look back on it now, and maybe I might have played like one of them, like maybe in the barracks one time. But I was like, no, dude, I've never owned one, never played one. I've just never, you know, I never have. And they were like, dude, that's to them, they're like, that's wild, and I'm like.
Yeah, you're weird, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm the weird one. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. My bad, guys. So where, you know, what the one thing when I bring guys on here is that I talk about like for these dudes going out now for like path of success or like the drive, right? What are like tips that you would throw out there for them? Like, hey, no bullshit, because selection prep, man. It's a lot of guys go into it with a lot of physical stuff. And they're like, yeah, I'm doing this. The one thing that I've seen, man, that I'm mind blown by is that guys don't really prep ruck. And like, I'm like, what? Like, why are you not prepping ruck? Like, what do you know, why are you not doing that? They just don't. They're just like, oh no, it'll come. It'll be good. And I'm like, dude, you think that, man, until you do a 12K or 15K with like 85 pounds on your back. And then that's game over for you, dude. Like, what are you talking about? And, so I see a lot of guys that physically prep, but then like mentally, man, they just shut it down. And I don't understand that aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much more that goes into it. Like even like the knot tying, you know, like that stuff is important. I always tell guys before they go, like, hey, you will be an asset to your team in team week if you can tie a bunch of different knots. Yep. Like for me, like I said, I was a surfer from California, so like I really didn't know anything about tying knots, you know. So I had to pick up for it and, you know, carry a little bit more weight because I wasn't that big of an asset with that. But I remember those guys that were really good at it. I was like, man, that guy's awesome.
Yeah. No, I've seen now, you know, the Army Special Forces Command is starting to put out these videos now. And so like they did one yesterday on the J hook for rope climbing and stuff. And they did one a few months back about knot tying. And I was like, man, you know, these things just didn't exist 10 years ago. They didn't exist 5 years ago. You could find YouTube videos or you could talk to guys, you know, within your team and stuff, but these things didn't exist, man. And now they're starting to get to where they're using social media as that positive tool to help guys out. And I've been telling guys like, dude, these videos that they're putting out, go watch that shit. Like you may not think it's important now, but it will be, man. I promise you, go watch this stuff. So, you know, and I was talking to a dude the other day and he's like, oh, I don't do anything with my legs when I climb a rope. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good, bro, for one rope climb. But when you're doing multiple rope climbs like that, you're going to tire yourself out. You're not going to be able to do it, man. You have to learn to do these things. And, I mean, a lot of people do wing it, but I think those guys that do prep the right way, it definitely shows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know exactly who those guys are when you see them out there. Like, all right, this guy definitely took the steps necessary. I remember when, you know, I went to selection like early 2006. Like, I don't even know if YouTube was a thing then.
No.
It might have been. Like,
no. I mean, it could have been, but it wasn't like it was now, I guess. No.
Yeah, I had to literally go find like an old timer and be like, hey, can you show me how to tie some knots? You know, like stuff like that.
Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day on here, man. I was like, you got to realize, man, like it's crazy all the resources people have that they have now, because that's how far we've come in the last 10, 15 years. You're right, man. 06, 07, these things didn't exist, man. It wasn't like, it wasn't real. Like it just did not exist. And it's funny telling people that now. They're like, what do you mean? Like there's all kinds of information out there. I'm like, yeah, dude. So imagine having to go through selection like 06, 07 with those dudes. Like they were just winging it the whole way, man. They were just prepping themselves physically and showing up. Like, and
yeah.
I think the Army's doing a good job now with these Instagram pages, kind of showing people like, hey, not only just the main one, but I've seen every group has a page now, and they're kind of like, you know, putting stuff out. So they're using the tool, the only way they know how, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can be used for a lot of good. So
it can be used for a lot of bad too.
It's very, very true. Very true.
Yeah, I'm hit or miss with social media, man. Now that the podcast has kind of taken off, I started using it a lot more, but there for a while, dude, I was kind of like, I need to get away from this for a little bit, man. But I'm very adamant. Like, I don't follow Instagram models. I don't follow, a lot of the dumb shit I don't follow, man. I'm not a big celebrity follow. I just never have been. I'm not a big starstruck kind of guy.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I would rather talk to dudes like you. And the thing is too, is like we get people when they're like, guy, and I tend to get with guys like that have big followings like you guys do. Like, I don't know if you know Dakota Myers at all, but we're doing an episode in June, and Dakota has, I don't know, 300,000 followers, whatever, and he's friends with, awesome. He's friends with Tim Kennedy and all that, but you talk to him, dude, and he's just like, I hate this shit. Like, he's like, I do it because my livelihood's on the line for it and stuff, man. But he was like, he's like, I'm just a country boy, just, having to do stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I got you, man. So I don't know, man. I think it can be used for good and bad. And you see pages like yours though, and yours are used for good. And so like following your content, I'm like, man, like that's awesome. And you got like this little cult following as well. I always use cult following with people when I'm talking about them, because they do, man. It seems like every little person I talk to like has like, like 13 Bar has their own, Jeff Nichols has their own, you guys have your own, Soft Fleet has their own line, and it's all like they kind of intertwine together like a Venn diagram, but you have like your loyal followers. Like I had somebody reach out to me this week about you again, and she was like, oh yeah, like, did you ever get that episode set up? And I was like, oh yeah, we're doing that episode Monday actually. And she was like, no way. I was like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, dope. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, dude, hey, we're on it, man, let's go.
Yeah, no, definitely exciting stuff. Yeah, I don't follow any of those Instagram models or anything like that too. As soon as somebody puts something toxic, delete. I don't need to follow 5,000 people, or even communicate with those people.
No, and those people are just living a total different life than I am too, man. When it is one thing, it's positive to get like a bunch of likes on photos and do stuff like that. But when that's what you're living for, man, and you're not doing it, you don't even have to monetize it. But when you're not doing it to promote a healthy space or a positive space, then why? Like, I don't get for me, I don't understand the background to it. So
yeah, I'm not that person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me either. And so I don't get it, man. I don't understand it. And I just look at it, I'm like, there's no way they're happy. Like, that's how I see it. I'm like, there's no way, dude. They just cannot be. There's something a couple of months ago that I cracked up about, is that one of the Instagram models, she's just one of those that like got famous from being good looking, but she's very honest about that, right? And so she was like, yo, I'm going to show you guys how stupid this shit is. And she went to her local IKEA and took pictures like sitting in front of like these Victorian type like mirrors and stuff, and then tagged herself in Ibiza. And so like made it look like she was like overseas in like this glorious location, and she was at her local IKEA store.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so, yeah. And she was like, people were like, not like bloggers and stuff were like reposting her stuff and like, oh, like Instagram model, whatever's. And, and the whole time she was like, wherever she's from in like IKEA store, like taking pictures, dude. And it's like,
that is great.
And so but it does, man. It exposes that it shows them, exposes everything about how you can just take that photo and just, that's instantly what people, that's what they gravitate to, man. And they think like, okay, this dude's happy. If I put a picture up of me smiling, man, people don't realize, dude, I still got bills to pay. I'm still stressed the fuck out. I still have a life. I got to fucking hopefully, go toward a pot, without, I tell people, I'm one step away from the wrong move every day. I'm literally one step away from that line every day.
Right there with you, bro.
Yeah. And so I don't know, man. I look at it and I try to help people as far as like what keeps me going, and I try to put that out there. And, I don't know, man, different things drive different people. And it's good talking to guys like you, because you can tell that you're a motivated individual. You can tell that you have a drive to be better. And I mean, you got your son too, man. You got a whole life that you got to build for somebody else, man. And that's a different monster too.
That's my biggest motivator is my son, being a good man for him so I can raise him to be a good man as well. Like my father wasn't in the picture growing up. He was in and out of jail, drunk, beat my mom. Yep. And like, I just want my son to grow up with a positive role model. I found motivation from my father because I didn't want to be him.
Yep.
But I want my son to look up to me and be like, I want to be like my dad, you know?
Yeah.
That's how I looked at my grandfather and my uncle. They were kind of my role models growing up.
Yeah. Same, identical to me, actually. My dad and I have reconciled as I've gotten older. He's a Vietnam vet, man. My dad was one of those dudes who he just, I don't know, man. I don't think he wanted to be locked down ever. I don't think he ever wanted to be locked down, you know? And he used to hit my mom and stuff. And I just grew up thinking like, dude, I don't even like hitting guys smaller than me. So I grew up saying like, man, you know, I'll never hit a woman. I just can't, man. And for me, it's just not, no matter how angry I get or how my temper gets, I can't put myself in that situation. I just can't. And, you know, my mom's my biggest supporter on here. She raised me as a single mother. And it meant a lot to me. And her and I still butt heads every now and then, just because I grew up and you know, did my own thing and moved out of my hometown. But my dad and I have reconciled as I've gotten older. But you're right, man. I took that from him. Like as I got older, I said, because he's a very selfish individual, and I had to learn not to, you know, to take time. And I do believe my father loves me, you know, in some way, but he's a very self-centered individual, and it's hard, man, because we don't have the same things in common. Like we talk about stocks. We don't. He didn't understand like why I wanted to play sports when I was like, if I tried to explain jiu-jitsu to my dad, he'd be like, he'd probably make some racial slur about Asians. I mean, seriously, I mean, he would, you know, it's a different mindset, man. He doesn't get it. I remember I took a girlfriend home a couple years ago, and dad's one of those guys. He's a ladies man, right? Like loves the ladies. So he's very nice to Jordan, and we get a couple beers in us or whatever. And her dad had come out as gay, right? And my dad straight looked at her after like a couple beers, you know, and he was like, "What's wrong with him?" You know, and I was like, "Jesus, what are we? What?" And I was like, "Dad, shut up. Well, what are you talking about?" You know what I'm like? Why? What was even the point of that, man? You know? So he's just that's just how he is, man. And as he gets older, but I don't know, man. He's on like wife number 5 now, I think. He's 73, dating a 42-year-old, just living his dream, dude. He's just living his own little world out there, dude. Whatever.
Living his best life.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, for him, I guess, you know. But I grew up the same way, man, is that like I just you know, I never wanted to I used him as fuel to, you know, I love him to death, but I used him as fuel because I never wanted to be that, you know. I never wanted to not be in my kid's life. I never wanted that for anybody. I didn't want to grow up that way. And I'm a big supporter of like, even if I don't understand something, right? So if there's something you're interested in, but I don't know anything about it, I'm going to try my hardest to be interested in it for you. And that was my biggest thing growing up is I built a lot of resentment, a lot of just negative self-reflection looking in because I loved basketball growing up, and this dude didn't understand a thing about basketball, never came to my games, never cared about it, and that really fucked me up for a long time.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Definitely a lot of deep-rooted stuff with my upbringing that I've had to unveil, you know, through therapy and stuff like that. But it only makes us stronger, you know, where we come from and all that.
Dude, I actually had a guy reach out to me, a former Green Beret reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and he said, "Hey man," he was like, "I'm curious if you could find this out for me because, you know, you work with a lot of different, you know, research and different foundations. Is there anybody out there doing research now for veterans, specifically in the soft community, that are now talking about their childhood trauma and how that's relating to having to deal with their PTSD, or if, you know, if they're suffering from TBI, is that bothering them as well?" And he was like, because what I found out is a lot of, from his own personal experiences, that a lot of the soft dudes that he's working with, they are, they suffer some kind of childhood trauma, excuse me.
Interesting. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I said, it just makes us stronger where we come from, all that. It's interesting. Very similar story, actually.
I know. Yeah. It was when you were talking about it, I was like, geez, man, yeah, man, he's all right. He is who he is. You know what I'm saying? And I learned a long time ago. It's like, I used to let it really bother me, you know, a lot. And as I got older, I just realized that nothing I say or do is ever going to change him. You know, I spent a lot of my life just wanting dude to be proud of me. And I think he's proud of me in his own way. And it's just not the way that I would want him to be. And I can't change that. So I just go on about our relationship now because I don't know. And he's gotten older, he's gotten better, but I don't know, man. I don't think he'll ever understand me as a human. And I've come to terms with that a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's all we can do. And that's, like I said, that was one of the main reasons I started therapy. And, I got this life coach that reached out to me, and it's making me a better dad, father, friend, everything, like overall. And I'm very happy I did it.
Yeah, me too. I was too. It took me a minute, man. And you know that. You know how people are. Like, it took me a minute to be like, okay, yeah, I should probably go see a therapist. I was like, nah, I'll be okay. But then, like, I fought it for as long as I could until I had to go talk to somebody.
Yeah, what I tell people is, like, there's never a right time. It's just going to happen. And, like, I should have went years ago, but I didn't, and I hit rock bottom and, let myself get into a bad state. But, finally making the decision, it just happened. Man, there is no right time. It just happens.
Right. Charlie, man, I appreciate you coming on, dude. Before I let you hop out of here, go ahead and throw out, like, one, we'll plug your Instagram and everything and Hard to Kill. But I want you, if you don't mind, man, just throwing out, 3-5 tips for guys going to selection here soon, or dudes who are in Q course, moving, projecting onto teams. What's your advice for them?
Stay motivated. Self-motivation is going to be, key. Be a good teammate. Take care of your brothers, like, on the team. Take care of them for their families, and then always reach back to those guys too. It's important, to try to. I call my teammates every week, at least one of them, and just talk to them. Keep that brotherhood alive. That's your family. If you make it through these courses and you get on these teams, that is your family. I truly love every single one of those dudes and their families, and we'll always be there for them. That's this brotherhood. And if that's not the life for you, then this isn't the place for you. We look out for one another, and just try to keep everybody motivated, keep training, do everything you can to make your team better, make you better, and, take care of your body. Obviously, one thing I didn't do a lot, was take care of my body. I trained really hard, but I also didn't, stretch a lot and stuff like that. So that's super important moving forward with a career in special forces, like taking care of your body. And there's a lot of great guys out there that you can follow to, help teach you how to do that. And that's it. Have fun. It's the best job.
Best job. There we go, man. No, I agree. As you get older, dude, it gets harder too. It gets harder to stretch. It gets harder. It starts wearing on you. Charlie, dude, I appreciate it, man. You can check him out at the Operational Athlete on YouTube, Instagram. Check out Rucks for Vets. Hopefully coming out. You said you're thinking about doing Run for Vets as well, which is awesome, dude. Yeah. And then definitely check out Hard to Kill Fitness. Almost everybody knows what that program is about now. So it's awesome. You guys have gotten a lot of follows out there. So, hey, guys, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Check out Charlie, and have a good day. Appreciate it.
This episode is brought to you by True Patriot. True Patriot is setting the standard for Patriot lifestyle apparel. 100% made in the USA. At True Patriot, it's more than just great shirts. It's about the mission, supporting our nation's veterans and families. Are you a veteran-based organization, nonprofit, or small business? Let them help you with your fundraising and custom shirt needs. Check out True Patriot today at truepatriot.com. TRUPatriot.com. And now, to the Kensington Corner.